Welcome everybody to Empower Field at Mile High Stadium and penultimate round of the round 16 of Monster Energy Supercross for the Dunlop Motorcycle Track Walk. And Adam, how are you doing today, man?
Dude, I'm a little sore. I had a pretty big get off in this first practice, but I ended up qualifying 15th so far, which is awesome. Definitely a little bit different here in Denver. We got a huge factor, which is the altitude, and then on top of that, you know, when you're up here, for some reason, the track is always hard packed. It doesn't matter, you know, Salt Lake, any kind of altitude makes the track very, very hard packed.
Yeah, you have an arid environment, low humidity, obviously, and also, I mean, there's just a lot of adobe in this region. So
yeah,
we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, we had to do the track, change our schedule up a little bit. You've already got one practice session in.
Yep.
Yesterday we had incredible winds and weather.
Wow.
I mean, they're at 30, 40 mile an hour winds. Everybody had to tie down their awnings, and there was
it was crazy.
All the schedule was canceled. There was no practice, no anything. So
yep,
hopefully today the weather's a little better. A little chilly this morning.
Yeah, it's definitely cold.
45 degrees, and I got some shivers. But let's get started.
Yes, sir.
Right off the gate.
So we do the first big factor, I think, is this little ledge we got going on. Shane, take a look at that. Yep. So that ledge is definitely a little bit different on the start, because you want to try to, like, if you get it perfect, you should be able to come out of the gate with a slight wheelie about 4 to 6 inches, be able to wheelie off that thing and then set your tire down after that little ledge, which is very, very important. If you set it before then, you're not quite getting that traction. So it's kind of like a good little marker, and it's a little bit of a drop, so you got to make sure you stay forward and keep on the gas. This start today, Broc, is definitely on the shorter side, which, like I said, I like, and I actually ended up getting a second place start in the first practice, so I'm pretty hyped up for today.
Well, let's talk about that. For first, when we talk about dropping off that ledge, where do you want to grab your next gear? Like, you right afterward, or as you go off of it, where do you anticipate your first shift?
You know, that really depends. Here, if it was at regular altitude, it would probably be right off that drop off, but right, because we're at altitude, you know, you're revved up to almost wide open, and then you're just going to keep it till about, I'd say, 10 to 12 feet after that. Just keep it in second gear.
Yeah, you talked about the elevation, so with at least now with electronic fuel injection, and there is a little easier to manage. The old days when you were changing jets and carburetors,
yeah,
it was a challenge. But let's talk about this right here. Here's a perfect example. This dirt right here, this is almost dusty, and they had a lot of water on this track this morning.
Yeah, like, look at how slippery it is with my boot.
I can't even imagine. I know, I'm glad I'm not back at the Dunlop tire truck right now, because riders are probably coming over, teams probably coming over and go, what can we do to get more traction?
Absolutely.
So this is very hard pack, and again, this is some interesting dirt right here. Shane, if you can film it. The dirt actually rolls up into clods. It kind of reminds me like you're trying to make oatmeal cookies or something.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting that this dirt does this. And then Shane, zoom right in here, this first corner. Adam, I mean, look at this. This literally, we have, after all that water, we have almost powdery dirt. And
yes. So one of the big things, like, I just got done with practice, right? So this section right here, you can see coming in, this is a very hard spot where we're on the brakes and we want traction. So you can see that adobe kind of pushing out and creating a little berm, even right here. So we've created a flat, hard spot right here and then a berm. So look for that to happen. What I was doing was you actually slide, you look for those shiny spots, slide across the shiny spot, catch that cushion, and ride that cushion all the way to the next jump.
Well, I can tell you one thing, I'm glad I'm not on a big 500cc two-stroke trying to manage
oh my
this thing.
Gosh.
Thank goodness, this is four-stroke, and in some of these sections, are you going to be looking for a little bit of a cushion, or like you talked about, just running into a berm is coming out of the first corner right here. This is where most riders were just popping this, clearing this for a quick double right out of the corner, and then setting up for the rhythm section. And the riders, I think pretty much the entire field was just triple, right?
Yeah, so it was 2, 3, 3, but you can expect guys like Marvin Muscan, Eli Tomac to switch that up. You know, they're probably gonna end up going 3 out of this corner, but I think the big factor is really, it just depends on how shiny does that corner get, how hard packed does that first corner get. It might just have to end up being hugging all the way inside 2, 3, 3 for the rest of the night. But, you know, as you see this track, it looks very basic, okay, Broc, which is, you know, it's very difficult to explain to people that don't understand, but with this altitude, a basic track is actually a very, very hard track. With the bike with so much loss of power, the track turns into super, super difficult.
Yeah, so you notice it when you're coming out of a corner. I mean, you've done a double coming out of a corner in your mind, a similar double for years and years and years for practice.
Yes.
But when you're up here at this elevation, when you come out of the corner and then you try to pop it, and the power of your 450 is now like a 300 or a 350, right?
At least I would say it more resembles a two-stroke 300, where that first initial hit, it's very flat.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of like like that. It doesn't have that 450 like that tractor feel anymore.
Doesn't have the meat like you used to. So after you come out of this section, again, most everyone was doing the 2-3-3, landing in this corner for the Dunlop 180. But incredible, I mean, you see the entrance of this corner is just perfect. You can go anywhere you want, but as soon as you go down the gas and start accelerating out, the tires dig into what was somewhat soft dirt, but look at even I mean, this is a big chucker right there. That's acceleration. A lot of different lines and ruts develop as you have to head out of this corner.
And even like boulders like this, you see these big rocks right here? Like, that's a huge rock. That's gonna be, you know, something that maybe Dunlop might have a problem with, just with these big rocks. There's gonna be some boulders in the dirt. But the biggest thing here is just getting to the inside on this lane. You know, it was the fastest because this is really only a 2, so you're just trying to get in and out of this as quick as possible, Broc.
Yeah, it doesn't take a whole lot just to pop this, not on any of these bikes, 250 or 450. But
yeah,
speaking of 250s, we've got a championship on the line. I mean, to sum it up, if Christian Craig wins, he's the champion. He can wrap it up tonight, and obviously Eli Tomac here can also wrap up here in his home state of Colorado. So I think it's going to be kind of an exciting night. Hopefully we see some celebrations, but I know Hunter Lawrence and the Honda team has different plans for that 250. They want to see him come down, give him that little bit of chance still in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think for Christian there's any like super gnarly feel to get it done today. You know, for Christian, it's kind of like just do what you do, have a good race. If it falls into your hands, it falls into your hands. For Eli Tomac, I think he just has such an advantage here. You know, I just can't see Eli not winning tonight.
Yeah, we can see right now Dirtworks crew. I think it's Corey looks like who's in that.
Yeah, Corey.
Yeah, it looks like Corey's in there, and he's back dragging this triple. It was kind of interesting. As hard pack as this was, there are a couple of spots that have really developed some pretty big ruts, and this was one of them. And we'll talk about the other one over there on the other side of the track. So this here, your basic triple, kind of your usual 60-plus footer.
Yeah, super basic, but again, not as basic as you think. You have to get on the gas a little bit more than normal. You can see some case marks in this triple, and that's because right when you get on the gas, it just has that gnarly flat spot.
You know, I did notice that in the practice session, that some of the riders in the B and C practice, if they didn't get out of that Dunlop 180 corner back there, they ended up checking up on that. So
see, this is what's going to happen in a lot of places right here.
See,
I mean,
right
it is slick.
Yeah, see your shadow there, right where your shadow is there, Shane. This is, I mean, there's actually black rubber marks in there, which is shocking to me this early because there's only been one session of practice so far.
Yeah.
And this is, the Dirtworks crew has a big challenge tonight.
Yeah.
Again, this stuff just rolls up into this little.
Yeah, and I think one of the bigger things too is what people don't understand is these patches, once they start, Broc, they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. You'll see this clay bundles up, and it's almost like a layer of a cake. And as soon as that clay's gone, underneath that surface, hard clay. You can see back here even where it's coming off, the clay's coming off, and it's just turning to hard pack. So as this day goes on, it's just going to get more and more hard packed every time we go out.
You know what it reminds me of? It's like an asphalt road that develops a pothole.
Yes.
And when that pothole, you hit the edge of it, it breaks away, breaks away.
Exactly.
It's almost exactly like that. So here you can see, even in the middle of this rut, in this berm, there's like a harder spot and then a softer spot. There's a little bit of a, I guess, inconsistencies in the soil, but
yeah, very challenging.
Got to get a good run out of here because this leads into our one set of whoops here at the Mile High Stadium, where the home of the Denver Broncos.
Yeah,
you got it. So just flat out across here, the riders were getting through here pretty good.
Yeah, and I think they will all night.
Yeah. can see.
Just because you can see, it got so hard packed so quick, there's not very many edges in the dirt.
Yeah, there's just this one whoop right here is probably the most challenging of the whoops.
Yeah.
It's developing a couple of cups and you know, uneven surfaces.
I mean, and
so
you can see how hard packed that is already.
So when that happens, it gets a little bit of rutted or cupped edge right there. It can kick your rear end a little bit around, but immediately following, you have two fairly smooth across whoops. So this to me is one of the more basic set of whoops that we've had this season, and I don't see it.
Very basic, Broc.
And then here, you can see the angle of these tire tracks here, back here, Shane. Most of the guys were popping to the inside. Early on, they were going wide, and then I think they figured it out.
Well, I think it was just because the track dried, Broc. You know, this was so wet this morning for first practice for those 250s. The track got just ridiculously slippery, and then it started to tack up. And now you can see the dirt's actually pretty tacky where it's clay, and that gave us an advantage to go to the inside. Right here, you bank off this little wall right here. As you guys can see, we got a little track walk going on for some very important people, which is awesome.
This is a filled VIP.
What's up, Ted Bars?
Hey,
how you doing, guys? How you doing? Real good.
How are you?
Okay, so as you come into this corner, go ahead, Broc.
So I was going to say, that's the section of the track where we just crossed over in front of the starting line. So now we're back on the shady side of the track. It will stay shady for a few more hours, and then we're going to walk right into a promoter track walk here, which I guess our timing wasn't too perfect there, but
okay, so you're going to come in here.
Side here,
if I can get a little bit of room here.
Yeah, let's walk off to the side a little bit, because this is a section I definitely want to talk about with Adam.
Okay, so what I'm doing in this section is I'm just going inside, super basic, 2 table over single, 3-3. What Eli Tomac was doing was actually going 2 off the front of this tabletop over the second one, so we call it technically a 4, you know?
So yeah, he was clearing right. Yeah.
He would clear this one and land on this one right here.
Right. So he was launching off of the table and clearing onto here.
All the way to there.
And then he was tripling again all the way out. And once he tripled out, he only had 2 left. And then once he gets the 2, he was landing right into the
Broc, so let's come over here real quick.
Yep.
Let's get on the track. So this is actually where I went down, okay? So you guys can see they just had prepped this, but even right here, there's still a rut left.
Yeah, there's this whole face of this jump, along with the triple on the other side, was remarkably rutted, considering the rest of the track borderline concrete. And Adam came off of this section, and as slippery as this was, probably didn't have the greatest traction, got a little bit cross-rutted, and had a pretty good tumble in practice. So I'm glad you're good. You said your ribs are a little bit sore.
Yeah.
You were really riding quite well, and you qualified nicely, and then you were in good position there. So
so let's talk about something else that's a factor here today with this practice, is that this shade. As you guys could see, that side of the stadium was more hard packed. This side of the stadium is definitely stickier. It's still a little sloppy. This is more identical to what was happening this morning, but because the shade of the stadium and where it's at, and so early in the morning, this side is gonna be very wet for a very long time. So look for this side of the track to actually be better for the race than that side will be.
Yeah, perfect. So again, we're hoping to pull up some footage and maybe be able to insert it into this track walk where we can actually see what happened to Adam, because it happens to the best of the best. It's a tough section. So here we have a section here, one part of the track that is not hard packed. So imported a bunch of sand, and again,
this is some thick stuff. This is not just like regular sand. I mean, like, come here, check this out. Look at how deep this is. I mean, this is no joke. When I was going through this sand section, I was standing up on the back of the bike wide open trying to get through this stuff. Luckily, I'm one of the bigger guys that can kind of do that and wheelie over that stuff. But man, for guys like Alex Martin, Cooper Webb, this is definitely going to be a tougher section.
Well, let's talk about another thing I saw you do. Jump off when you would single out here, you were jumping from the jump up on top of the sandy section over here.
And I was like one of the only guys doing it, actually.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
So if you end up off rhythm and you end up with a single at the end,
yep.
you know, there's no reason to roll it and waste your time. You just jump again and make it into a double, because if Shane, if you can figure out, get yourself back up here, we might be able to get ahead of this track walk a little bit. But you can see the rollers, they've got some big rollers in this right here.
Yeah, and what was such an advantage too is when I doubled across the inside, I got a double again and then a double, which set me up perfect for that corner.
Yep, absolutely. So we're gonna leave behind some of our VIP track walks there. I saw Jason Thomas from Western Power Sports.
Nice.
Leading a group there, probably some top dealers. So right here, again, the inside was a little bit high. They all started about this high, and then this worked its way down. Or did they actually have this lower to the track?
No, this was high. This was this high all the way across.
Yeah, so they've probably gonna have to regroom this, try to make it the same height all the way across.
Yep.
Again, fixing this. I did not get to see this too much up close and personal like you did.
Yeah.
So how did this track develop? With the sand, you actually have a lot of this sand drug into the beginning of this berm. So
yeah.
You can see right here, you can see that this is a sandy soil, but as you go through it, they've got the adobe clay. So how did it develop through the practice there?
This was actually one of the better corners, and I think why it was one of the better corners is this double after it's not very big. But what did happen was, unfortunately, we didn't even really get to rail that turn. This double was so small, the fastest way around this corner was to go all the way to the bottom of the berm, and there's a very tight inside, and then you'd hit like first gear and just pop this double, get the right angle for the finish, and hit the finish.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I did see it. And then here, talking about the finish, there was a lot of, I mean, this is a little shorter than normal double, but a lot of the top riders, especially because of qualifying, they were going right to the very inside where you see that Yamaha corner marker and then tripping the lights real quickly. So they were going for the qualifying time.
That's what I did on my fast lap.
Yep, and a race line will not be nearly that inside.
No.
It will be going much further. So, okay, so well, over the finish here, we can let.
So again, this is going to be a very exciting corner, because if you can get this lined up here, man, there's going to be some serious takeout action on that finish.
So you think so, right back there?
Yeah.
You think that's going to be it?
It's a 90-degree corner.
Yep.
It's all open on the inside. I mean, if you're good, you're going to protect that inside line. But man, if I'm in that deciding position, I'm just going to stuff it in there.
Hey Shane, let's do something that not a lot of people get to see, and this can buy us a couple of minutes here where the track's clearing out. But this here, you'll see this at the finish line tower. This is the team manager's tower.
Check this out.
If you're a team manager, you get to go up this little spiral staircase. And sometimes they even allow me out here and watch the races. But this is where the team managers hang out, and this is kind of a little bird's eye view. You'll see there's a monitor on each side of the team. You can see where your rider's doing. Right there, that one's a little dirty and dusty, but this one here, I mean, you can see right here, this is, you know, the KTM Juniors names up here, and Lynx Lacey sitting there in second place. We're going to have a great battle for that. That's Tiger Lacey, the late Tiger Lacey. He used to ride Supercross.
Yep.
And, that's his,
awesome racer.
His son. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Can't wait to see my son's name on that list.
Yeah, someday.
Yep.
And what about you, Shane? You got to wait about 6, 7, 8 years. Your daughter will be out there.
Straight up.
Yeah, Hadley will be out there racing with you. But yeah, so this is where the team managers get to hang out, right here at the finish line. They get to see the whole track, and especially on this field. So you'll see a lot of top names that you recognize, the Roger DeCosters and you know, whoever else from the different teams. But I just figured we'd come out and check this out.
Yeah, and one of the coolest things about this team manager tower, you know, the team managers can see everything, so they give you an opportunity to radio down to the mechanic or whoever's down there, your suspension guy, and be like, hey, Adam's bike's looking a little soft in the front, a little soft in the rear, and or they can communicate, hey, Eli Tomac's going 2-4 in that rhythm section. Adam, you need to do that. It's worth a second. So there's a lot of advantages to having your team manager up there. You know, it's not just to see where you're at in lap time, but to be able to scope the track and get a new insight on, you know, what we can do to make the bike better.
So that takes place during qualifying and things like. Sometimes where your mechanic, if it's just maybe thinks a little bit of couple clicks on your forks, if they're too soft or too hard, so he can make mention of that on the radio. communicates with the mechanic, pulls you in, makes a quick change, you can go out and try it out. That way you're not wasting time and trying to do it in a heat race.
Totally.
Right? So,
yeah, and like for instance, this week it was like, I qualified 15th so far. You know, we have a great setting, and go ahead.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
So last week, you know, I qualified like 24th, and you don't realize how much of an advantage it is when your, you know, your crew chief can see, you know, what changes need to be made.
So right here, Adam, you're going to take the inside line. I'm going to take the outside line. And Shane, you can see, so the advantage is now hard. You're going to accelerate off onto the starting line, and you're going to be coming out at an angle. Here, if I get a little bit wide, hopefully I can square up as you're drifting wide.
Yep.
Then I can cross over behind you.
Yes.
If you were to go to the inside and go to the left over there,
Yep.
right? And then I'll go over here, and then I might be able to set you up in the first corner. It might take 2 of those outside-inside moves, but I can kind of come back and make a pass. So
yes.
You can really see the 2 distinct lines that have developed there, and it's going to be fun to see what goes on during the race, huh?
Yeah, and especially this is a great passing area, and the reason why that is usually after this turn, there's just a rut right here, and it's super, super fast.
Yep.
But here, I am telling you guys, this is like riding on ice. There is no traction. So this outside actually could be an advantage later. Yep. But like I said, this clay is building up. This is where the traction's at, right here, this little edge. See these little clay patches? Right here, you're just kind of sliding, guiding, you're going real slow, and then as soon as you hit that tacky part, you're on the gas. Whereas this, you have that cushion, and you can be on the gas early, use that bigger cushion, and maybe get down the straightaway a little quicker.
And normally we talked about a rut developing in a corner like this, where it makes the track pretty much you're stuck in that one rut.
Totally.
And as this thing starts and it keeps pushing, it's like a dirt track racer on a half mile or a mile, where the cushion gets pushed further and further and further out.
Yeah.
So now effective area, the racing line's very wide in here.
Very
so
wide.
I think this is an excellent, like you mentioned, a great passing opportunity.
Great passing opportunity.
So, well, I think now we've kind of made a full lap here, and it's just looking forward to an afternoon of fun racing.
Me
and
too.
We wish you all the best, and thanks everybody for tuning in, and thanks Shane for the great camera work here, and we'll be posting this thing in a few minutes, right?